Welcome to all of you to this edition of the EAI seminar. We are very proud to be here and to be the speakers today. My name is Ruth-Sophie Taubner. I'm the scientific coordinator of the Space Research Institute of the Austrian Academy of Sciences in Graz, Austria. And I'm also the current president of AbGradE, the Astrobiology Graduates in Europe. And my co-speakers are Silvana Pinna from the Supramolecular Science and Engineering Institute in Strasbourg, France, and Ben Tatton from the Open University in Milton Keynes, UK. So, we have some quite interesting news and hints and tricks for you, especially if you're interested to become an astrobiologist. So this talk is mainly meant for early career scientists starting from early bachelors over to master students seeking for a PhD in astrobiology, but also, of course, early stage PhDs. I hand over to Silvana for an overview.
Hello, yes. So what we're going to talk to you about is, first of all, what is astrobiology? You probably all know about it, but it's always good to do a refreshment. Where to study, so what degrees might be more useful, what extracurricular courses, where you get started, and where to get a PhD postdoc, how to go about asking supervisors and stuff like that. And lastly, networking, which is arguably one of the most important things to do to get started. And I'll give it over to Ben.
Thank you. So, what is astrobiology? Astrobiology is the study of life in the universe, so a fairly broad field, although it may be even broader than you would initially think. Next slide, please. So, astrobiology encompasses the natural sciences, so everything that you see here, as well as some extra. So, for example, we have PhD students currently working at the Open University and recent graduates of their PhD in topics of law, economy, ethics, and sort of the application of astrobiology to developing nations. So realistically, there are many, many different things that astrobiology or many different subjects that are applicable to astrobiology. So for the most part, no matter what your background, there is a place for you in astrobiology.
And about how diverse your background can be for astrobiology, we would like to show you with our own career paths. So, for example, I will start with so the presentation works. Okay. So I started, I will give you like a short overview about my own career path. So I started in 2006 to study astronomy, and I wasn't really sure about which field in astronomy will be the one I will end up. But I was very lucky that in 2009, when studying my master's, I was able to join the research platform ExoLife, which was like a research platform between the astronomy and the physics department at the University of Vienna. And this research platform was about exotic life and how exotic life could be on different exoplanets, but also like on Tatton. And this was like the first step into astrobiology. And I was able to write my master thesis about a potential nitrogen cycle on Saturn's Enceladus. And I was fascinated by Enceladus, and I started also my PhD working on Enceladus. I will come back to that later. In my last year of my master's, I also started to attend conferences. So my first conference was the EPSC, and I think it was in Estoril, next to Lisbon, so in Portugal. It was amazing. It was overwhelming, I could say. I was like a last year master students, and all those big names I was surrounded by all these big names and met like people I just knew from papers, and it was really an incredible moment for me. So here's already like our first hint. Go to conferences. We will come back to that later. as I already said, like in 2013, I started my my PhD, and it was about the habitability of Enceladus. I studied astronomy and physics. So how could I work on the habitability on Enceladus? It was tricky. So from 2013, I worked approximately 1 year on coding the interior of Enceladus. But then in 2014, I changed totally fields. So I started to work in microbiology because I wanted to get to know organisms that could live in this subsurface ocean of this icy moon. And it was a whole new world. So coming from physics background, astronomy background, working on the PC, going to the labs, starting to learn pipetting and cultivating cultures was a whole new world, and I really enjoyed it. 1 year later, I also started to be active in the conferences I attended. So I became active in AbGradE, so the Astrobiology Graduates in Europe, I already mentioned. But also I tried to get more active in EANA, which is the European Astrobiology Network Association, which is like an umbrella association for astrobiologists in Europe. And later on, of course, I also joined the EAI, which was founded in 2018. At the same time, approximately, I started to do some public outreach, which is also, I think, a really important point, not only for your CV, but also for your personal involvement and evolution, I would say. And 2018, I finished my PhD, and as you can see, it took me like 5 years to finish my PhD. And normally everybody says, oh, gosh, that's too long. But for me, it was the perfect timing because I changed fields and I had so much fun in what I was doing, and I was lucky to get some extra funding to extend my PhD to 5 years. So yeah, I finished it almost. Oh, it's already 4 years ago. Gosh. Yeah, later on, I did my first postdoc in the same group, doing microbiology postdoc, so having a PhD in astronomy, doing a postdoc in microbiology. Then 2020, I moved to Linz at the Johannes Kepler Institute, where I did my second postdoc, this time in biotechnology. So you can see like very diverse fields. And this year I moved to Graz, to the Space Research Institute, and became the scientific coordinator. So being more on the administrative side, but still working in science, and it's great fun. I think the next one is Silvana.
Yeah. Oh, I guess animations don't work. Anyways, bear with me. So I started my university career now 10 years ago, which is got a long time. So I started at the University of Kent, and I studied biochemistry. And this is a picture of me doing musical theatre. I was very active in the arts. And at this point, I wasn't even thinking about going into research, to be honest. I went to a year abroad to Hong Kong, which was very interesting. The first practical experience in astrobiology was an internship during the summer at the Center for Astrobiology in Madrid, where I was working on an instrument to measure, to find biosignatures on Mars, and that was really, really interesting. I knew about astrobiology before; it was very interesting, but this was really it for me. I was really interested in that. In 2016, I joined UCL in London to start my master's, and it was a master's of research, so it wasn't a taught master. I had a few modules, but most of my time was spent in the lab, which was perfect for me because that kind of gave me a good intro into the world of research without having the commitment to a PhD, to a full PhD, 3 to 4 years. And I joined Nick Lane's lab, and they were working on the origin of life at alkaline hydrothermal vents that you can see pictured in small there. In 2017, I started a PhD with them because I enjoyed it so much and I had some promising results. And that was really the beginning for me of fully understanding how research works. I wasn't very aware of like all the networking, everything that gets into research besides the actual doing science. So in 2018, I started doing all this networking. The first thing that I did was going to the School for Astrobiology in France, the RED school. And that was amazing. That was a week in this bird sanctuary. It was really nice because we were all confined in this place. So you really get to know people, and you have a few projects that you need to go through, and you have lectures. So you get all this, you really get a sense of how interdisciplinary astrobiology is. So I think this was a great experience. And I went to my first conference, the EAI in Berlin, and there I also met, I went to the AbGradE event. And then right then and there, I went to Ruth, being like, I would like to help, I would like to be involved, because it was really interesting. 2019, I went again to the astrobiology school in France. Yeah, and 2020 was obviously a year of COVID, so I started writing and panickingly doing as many experiments as I could to try and finish my project. I'm sure everyone knows what that life was like. And finally, in between 2021 and 2022, I finished my PhD. You can see a picture down there of me with my old lab, and that was very special. And in 2022, I joined the Supramolecular Science and Engineering Institute in France, where I work on basically trying to bridge the gap between geochemistry, like simple reactions in geochemistry, to modern metabolism, see how that prebiotic chemistry works. And that is very useful for informing what kind of primordial planetary conditions we need and or are likely to have signs of life or Earth-like life. And that is me.
So it looks like the animation might be working on this one. So if you want to hit the first one. So I had a perhaps a more non-traditional route into university and astrobiology, as well as higher education. So I'm quite severely dyslexic, so school wasn't the easiest thing for me. I was generally a pretty middling student, and when I found music and bass guitar, my attention started to drift further and further away from school and more towards hopefully one day having a headline tour. So between 2009 and 2011, I went to a music school and gained a diploma in practical musicianship. And when I was there was a lot of emphasis on how to perform, how to be in front of audiences, how to be engaging, and believe it or believe it not, more of those skills than you would expect end up coming into your life as a researcher, especially when you get to conferences. However, as the ambitions of a thriving musical career started to drift away, the need to pay bills and all the rest of life's challenges came up, and I started to work in car insurance. So in car insurance, again, there was a lot of transferable skills I now know, even though I wouldn't have known it at the time. The ability to be able to sort of give your brief spiel, your sale pitch, which once again, you're doing quite a lot in research if you've only got 1 or 2 minutes to chat to a bigwig at a conference. But ultimately, I knew that I didn't want to spend the rest of my working career selling car insurance to people. So I decided to branch out and start looking into higher education. So in order to get into higher education, I did a foundation degree at the University of the West of England in Bristol, which is a polytechnic university there. And whilst I was there, I graduated from my foundation degree and then started my undergraduate degree in biology. So whilst I was doing my undergraduate degree, I did a year in industry which involved me going out into Europe through the Erasmus scheme, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And I worked in NGOs, firstly in Indonesia, which is the picture on the right. That's me in very cold in the cloud forest of Indonesia, looking for slow lorises. So it was primate ecology and conservation. And the picture on the left is me undertaking some makeshift field lab work in a marine biology conservation organization in Greece. That project focused more heavily on molecular biology, which, whilst I was at university, I began to sort of build up this growing fascination with microbiology and with ecology, and I couldn't decide which one I wanted to do more, but I did ultimately end up veering more towards the microbiology. But through astrobiology, I've been able to find a way of combining the skills from both of those areas and start looking into the ecology of extreme environments, or the microbial ecology of extreme environments. And in 2020, I was accepted onto the PhD course for exploring the limits of microbial life at the Open University as part of the Astrobiology OU group. That was one of the best days of my life when I got the approval of that, because it meant that all the previous sort of decades worth of, or nearly a decade's worth of struggling through redoing A levels in order to make up for the ones I initially didn't get to get into university, the foundation degree, the late night studying, meant that I'd all paid off. And then in 2022, I met Ruth and Silvana at the EPSC, as well as the rest of the AbGradE community and committee at EPSC 2022 in Granada. And from there, after speaking to Ruth and Silvana, they asked me to be involved in the committee. So I'm one of the newer committee members, first becoming involved this year. Hopefully, I'll be submitting my PhD thesis in the next 7 to 8 months, all things going well. So maybe next time we give one of these talks, I'll be able to update you on what my plans are regarding postdocs and my next steps.
Yeah, so how, like, you can see here that from how much we moved that science is international. So that's very important. I think, like, from my experience, you really, one really good advice is to really try and leave the comfort of your own country if you can. And we're going to see why soon.
Okay, so where to study astrobiology? There isn't one clear and defined route. As you may have guessed from all of our stories, there's more than one way to get there, and ultimately you need to follow your own path with it. So what my advice would be is to start broad. So if you like sort of the natural sciences and you just find yourself being drawn to those because they're ultimately sort of a topic you feel like you'll be able to really apply yourself to and really enjoy studying, then feel free to start with any of the sort of bachelor's courses that are listed there. I personally did biology, and like I said, I ended up studying ecology, conservation, microbiology, a broad range of topics, molecular biology, that have ultimately been fantastic in preparing me for my PhD in astrobiology. With a master's degree, you can start to become a little bit more specific, but once again, even if you're in an area that you don't necessarily think would be applicable, one of the takeaway messages we want you to have from this talk is that you are able to perhaps get into astrobiology through one of those fields we discussed earlier. And to echo Silvana's point, I really would recommend going abroad, if at all possible, applying to something like the Erasmus scheme, or in the UK now, the Turing scheme, and try and find a way to work abroad. We'll talk more about some of the things that you'll be able to do to improve your chances later on as well. But yes, places like America, they've got their, or the USA, sorry, have their own sort of bubble of astrobiology because they're so large. Europe, we've got many different nations, all of which are working together extensively. So do go out, get into Europe, meet people there, and you'll have a fantastic time and learn absolutely more than you could ever think.
Yeah, we often receive the question, where can I study astrobiology? And unfortunately, we can't give any answer to that because we are not aware of any major study program for astrobiology. That's a pity. But there are many courses, at least single courses at many different universities and institutes. And here is a selection of some of them. If you attended once an astrobiology course and it's missing here, please send us an email and we are happy to add it to our list. Yeah, this is only a selection, but we would be happy to distribute information about astrobiology courses in Europe. So we know during our research for this talk, we found out that there is a minor study program in astronomy and astrobiology at the UZH Zurich. So here you can do a 60 ECTS credits program, mainly based on astrobiology. So this could be something to start with. But as I said, many institutes or universities already started to have at least one course in astrobiology. So for example, in the UK, at the University of Edinburgh, or in the Super initiative from the Scottish universities, but also in Belgium at the University of Liège, or in Lund University in Sweden, in Germany at the University of Hohenheim, and so on and so on. If you are from the US, you can also check this homepage from NASA, where they also listed US-based courses. But this is like only if you really are already into studying astrobiology somewhere. If you just want to get to know astrobiology a little bit more, you could start easily by, for example, listening to talks from Ask an Astrobiologist from NASA, or use TED Talks in this topic. Another point would be to watch the online courses in astrobiology from the IAU, or of course the EAI Academy, and also like the last year newly funded spring schools of EANA. So last year we had the International Hydrothermal Spring School, and there will be another spring school in 2 years from EANA. Yeah, but speaking of the EAI, of course, the EAI Academy is something very special. It's in cooperation with the CAB in Madrid. And now it's the second year that it's already going on, and the talks are very educating and are meant for students who might not have a big background in astrobiology so far. So it's for all kind of beginners from all different kind of fields. And another thing I would like to highlight here in this context is space awareness. So it's about getting a new generation of space explorers. It's a nice thing. It's mainly meant for pupils, school students, but yeah, maybe if you're a bachelor student, maybe this is also something you would like to have an look at. If you're already more into science, so if you're a master student or first year PhD student, of course, you're used to read scientific journals. So here we highlight 3 of those. So Astrobiology, the International Journal of Astrobiology, and Origins of Life and Evolution of Biospheres. So we would recommend to like stroll through the list of amazing papers published there. What's also interesting is the AstroMap European Astrobiology Roadmap. It was published in 2016, and it was like, as it says, a roadmap for astrobiology. So it's might be interesting for you to see what was planned for astrobiology in Europe. And there's also like a strategy for the US, so the NASA astrobiology strategy, and where you can also see what the US colleagues have planned for astrobiology in the next years. Good, Silvana.
And importantly, once you have already you starting to learn about astrobiology a little bit, maybe through your university or through the courses that Ruth said, the main thing is come to a conference, come to an event that's been organized where you can network, you can listen to experts, you can meet your peers. That really is a great help. Even if you're not in the field of astrobiology as of now, then it's still very useful to come to one of these conferences if you can. These listed here are some of the most active conferences in Europe, I guess. So there's us. We at AbGradE organize several things during the year, and then we organize a conference. Symposium or workshop right before the EANA conference, which happens yearly. And that's mainly for early career. Another early career group that organizes conferences and seminars is ULAN, the Origin of Life Early Career Network Association. And that's more specific to Origin of Life, but we have a lot of variety, and we have purely astrobiology people as well. We have microbiologists that come and talk with us as well. EANA, I just mentioned, is the European Astrobiology Network Association, and it organizes a conference every year, or biannual now, I think. And that's more it's not exclusively to early careers. Beacon as well is the biannual astrobiology conference organized by the European Astrobiology Institute. And then we have EPSC, which is the Europlanet Science Congress, which is more focused on the planetary science side. So these are some of the most active conferences that we have in Europe. There's obviously more that you can go and check out. We're going to talk about them a bit later. And conferences, as I say down there, conferences can be expensive. However, you can, if you join your National Society of Astrobiology or apply for grants, that's going to be a really good help. Some conferences offer grants to early careers and students, and they're very, very generous, so they help a lot. And then some countries also, you can apply for grants from the government to go to go to conferences. So do check that out, because that really gives a big help.
So where to get a PhD? The best way to get a PhD is to keep an eye on Twitter, along with using sort of resources such as Find a PhD and going to conferences. So sort of doing those kind of things can really, really help you to get a jump on people, because you tend to get little flurries when money comes in to research institutes, and then they'll put that out, put the dates for applications, and just apply. Honestly, even if you don't think you'd be in the running for it, the feedback that you can get can really, really help you in future applications. I know for me personally, I applied to a couple of PhDs before I got my PhD, and so yeah, you've don't be deterred if at the first time you don't get the result that you're after. Keeping an eye on, if you're in the UK, keeping an eye on the Astrobiology Society of Britain, keeping an eye on their website, and also do be proactive and contact members of the research institutes that are listed on there. There's 24 institutes that are listed, so you should be able to find emails, email the principal investigator, and even if they don't get back to you, just be persistent, drop them another email. It helps you stand out from the crowd. And once again, to echo Silvana, it's fantastic to come and meet us. If we can put a face to a name, it really, really helps. So don't be afraid, we don't bite, but we'll be talking more about networking in a couple more slides. So I will pass on over.
Silvana? Silvana, can you hear us? Are you? Yeah, perfect.
We can't hear you, Silvana.
Silvana, we can't hear you.
People. A lot of websites around have lists. Like for example, the IANA has a page on national activities and groups that work in astrobiology all over Europe. Our website in AbGradE also has a page on national activities, and it also has a list of names of the committee members who are in specific countries. So if you need someone to be the middleman. The ASB, as Ben mentioned, has a list of UK institutes active in astrobiology, and then there's also the Nordic Network for Astrobiology that has a list of institutions for the Nordic countries. Next slide, please. But as I mentioned earlier, a lot of countries have their own Society for Astrobiology. So if you're wondering if your own country can help you somehow to get into astrobiology, or a specific country anyways, then you can just contact those. There used to be only a few. Now there's quite a lot of these countries that have astrobiology institutes. You see the websites for some of these, and all of these are listed on also our website, and so we're going to be able to share this with you, but just know that you can look up to your own country.
Yeah, and last but not least, there is, of course, also the big players in Europe. So we have the ESA, the European Space Agency, and also the national space agencies like DLR, CNES, and also UKSR, UK Space Agency. So also these agencies do have from time to time internships and things like that. Check their homepage. And maybe also contact people working there if they know something about potential internships, traineeships, and so on. Let's come to the next point. It's about upcoming early career events. So of course, we'd like to mention the EAI summer schools. So there will be 4 summer schools next year, one in Poland in July, one in Estonia in August, one in Germany in September, and one on the Azores in October. So take a look at the EAI homepage for further information. I think there are not yet further information, but check the homepage regularly and you will get some insight about those summer schools. I attended, I think, like 4 summer schools of the EAI, or the astrobiology, or the former, the previous version of the EAI, and it was always amazing. So I would really recommend to attend those summer schools. Besides that, there will be another edition of the RED school. Silvana mentioned it. She was attending it in I think 2018 and 19. So there will be another one in March next year, again in France. There is the announcement that there will be an AbGradCon in the US next year. So AbGradCon is more or less like our sister committee in the US, and but I think it's not yet announced where it will take place. There will be also the EPEC Annual Week. It will take place in Bratislava, but also we are still waiting for more information. And of course, there will be the traditional AbGradE workshop before EANA. Both will take place in September in Madrid, in Spain. And we're really happy if you would like to join us there. But there's another conference or like event I would like to emphasize to come to join, which will be the La Palma AbGradE EPEC event 2023. It will be a 4 days event full of scientific program, but also workshops and excursion to the new lava fields, volcanic fields. And it will be amazing. I can already tell you, it will be amazing. It will be the first, it's the third try for these conferences, because we had to, we originally planned it for 2020, but then, yeah, COVID hit us, or hit the whole world. And then last year there was the volcano, but now we are very confident that AbGradE EPEC 23 will take place. And the registration is open now. You can see the QR link on this page, but just simply visit our homepage. You can find all the important information. We do have a lot of travel accommodation grants, so please register, submit an abstract, and ask for a grant, and we are very happy to host you on La Palma.
So when you're at some of these wonderful conferences that are taking place all over the world, some tips that I would give for when you're there is, firstly, to be polite, respect others, goes without saying, but the astrobiology community is diverse, and it's one of our greatest strengths. We have people from all over the world with different cultures, so it's always important to bear that in mind, and to, as I say, just be respectful and polite. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself to people. As somebody that recently went to their first in-person astrobiology conference this year, I know it can be intimidating. It's meeting these people that you've read their papers, you've seen their talks online. I can assure you I had a similar experience with Ruth, because I've read previous papers of hers. But people within the astrobiology community are, for the most part, absolutely lovely. We'll be more than happy to speak to you, and it really does help us to remember you if you come and have a chat with us, to be asking us questions, to be actively listening. All these type of things help us to, like I say, put a name to a face, and to keep you in mind for future. You'd be surprised the amount of times people will, within research institutes, ask other people, do you know anybody that would be a right fit for this PhD, or be a right fit for this? And if you've been keeping in contact with us and speaking to us at conferences, then we're much more likely to suggest yourself. And to make sure that you stay at the front of our minds, exchange details with us. It's just an email. Again, having recently been in a position where I didn't have a PhD and was looking for one, I know that the thought of sending emails off and potentially not getting a response can be daunting. But again, it's most likely that we're just busy. So don't be afraid to send a follow-up email if we don't get back to you on the first one. And do reach out to us. Follow us on Twitter. Like I say, message us. We will get back to you eventually. But yeah, just wanted to say thank you very much for coming and listening to ourselves, talk to you about how best to get a head start in astrobiology. I know that we're going to be taking some questions, and we can't wait to hear them. No such thing as a silly question, so do feel free to ask away, and yeah, thank you very, very, very much.
So feel free to ask. We have a question here. Let's see. Martin Avar asks, wait, no, it's gone. Okay. Can students who are doing bachelor's degree be involved in astrobiology events, seminars, summer schools, or should they focus more on learning the basics on their field?
I'll jump in with that one.
Sure.
I was a very active bachelor's degree student. I made a point of speaking to my lecturers, emailing other people, trying to get involved in summer schools and things like that. I think that, of course, there's a balance that needs to be struck. Like, you shouldn't be doing so much that your studies do start to suffer. But if you feel like you've got the capacity to go to a summer school or a seminar, go for it. I spoke to PhD students a lot when I was an undergraduate because I'd begun to start wanting to do research by the time I was in my third year of my undergraduate degree. And so I went and spoke to PhD students and asked them how they got their PhDs, what recommendations they had. If you do go to these type of events, then, like we said in our talk, it will help people, the scientists and researchers that are bringing in funding to have PhD students. It will help them remember you. And if you go up to them and tell them, I want to be an astrobiologist, I want to work in your group because I really like the work that's going on in your group, that will do a lot in your favor. So if you've got the capacity, go for it.
And also, if I may, some of these summer schools or some of these schools, they often say, if you're a master's student, if you're a PhD student, so they often don't really mention bachelor students, but don't let that deter you. I would just simply send an email and ask if you can apply, or just directly apply. Don't feel like you can't. There's no hurt in asking.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've been to a summer school when I did my bachelor's. I've been to the Alpbach summer school. It's more on the astronomy side, and it was overwhelming. So the people there were like geniuses in my mind. But it was so much fun to work with them and to learn from them. So I would say, yeah, go for it. And the other thing is, I mean, if you're doing your bachelor's, you're most likely gonna do a master's after that. And you have to decide about your master thesis, for example, or your master project. So if you already sneaked into astrobiology, you could get an idea what you want to do. Maybe you can already do a master thesis in astrobiology, or at least you can choose courses during your masters which could fit into astrobiology. So I would say starting sneaking into astrobiology at the end of your bachelor's is a good idea.
That's actually what I did without having gone to anything. I just decided to write my thesis with a little bit of astrobiology in it, and that worked fine.
Perfect. I see there's another question from Mariano, my Italian, Patistucci from Padua. So the question is, do you happen to know of postdoc funding programs such as MCA, AMBO, or Humboldt, but more focused on astrobiological field? Oh, that's a tricky one. Silvana, do you know?
I don't know specifically for astrobiology, because astrobiology, as it's very interdisciplinary, it kind of like usually grants go to the microbiology side or that. I know that there are some grants now that are starting to have an actual astrobiology section. I don't remember the name of that, but they were more for PIs, for like general grants, not for postdocs, I think. For the origin of life, I know that there's the Simons Foundation. It's one of the foundations that give grants almost specifically to that side of the field. Yeah.
There's in the UK, there's the Leverhulme's grant. That tends to be more focused towards postdoc and research that would traditionally fall between the cracks. So astrobiology, because of its interdisciplinary nature, can often find itself between the cracks, where it doesn't quite fall into a category that a funding body would be specifically looking for. So I know that there are people within our group that have applied for that and successfully got it and worked as research fellows and postdocs. So I will, I'll get the name for you because, as I mentioned, I'm dyslexic, so I cannot spell Leverhulme off the top of my head, but I'll find that for you and I'll put it in the chat, Mariana. There you go. Silvana's got it for me already.
Yeah, and what I would like to mention is, from my own experience, working in astrobiology is interdisciplinary. And if you ask for funding for an interdisciplinary project, it's well received normally. But if it's too interdisciplinary, this might be also struggling. So take care that you have a certain frame. It's okay to be interdisciplinary, but be between some borders so that the funding agencies can find reviewers for your report, for your proposal. And this was the problem for my proposal back then. Any further questions? If not, I mean, if you're watching this video on YouTube and you would like to ask questions, please don't hesitate to visit our homepage. There's a contact form, or send us an email directly to our email address. We would be happy to answer your questions or help to try to answer your questions and help you with your problems or whatever. Yeah, I would say thank you to listen to our talk. Thanks to my co-speakers, Silvana and Ben. It was a pleasure to have this talk with you. And I would say I wish you all a great festive time, great holidays, and hope to see you soon again in person, maybe on La Palma.
See you soon, everybody.
See you. Thank you.